Back, we're still looking at the impact of those floods in KwaZulu-Natal. Let's focus on education now and speak to the MEC, Kwazi Mshengu, the Education MEC in KwaZulu-Natal. That's his official title. MEC, welcome to the program. So we've just been assessing some of the damage. People's homes are either collapsed or flooded in some communities. How have school buildings been impacted?
Well, so far we've received reports that 97 schools have been affected across the province. Obviously, the damage differs from one school to another. But we're expecting that number to go up because some other areas are still not accessible. So we can only determine whether there's damage or not when we're able to access those schools. The disruption has also been massive. Over 500 schools in the province could not open today, because we had to prioritize the safety of learners as well as educators.
Mm-hmm. And which are the areas that are still inaccessible for you to make these assessments?
eThekwini is one district that is badly affected, Mgubundlovu, as well as King Cetshwayo and Ilembe. But we are also receiving one report from Mutshubela that there may be quite huge damage that is being that is not yet recorded from that part of the province. Mm-hmm. So those are the areas that have really been affected by these floods.
Let's come back to the issue then of areas where you have been able to make these assessments. 97 schools, you say, have been affected. Where are you seeing the worst kind of damage?
The worst kind of damage is in eThekwini. That's really, and I think that's where basically the whole damage, be it in schools and other buildings, is concentrated. You know, we have had one school in Efolweni where we could not rescue learners since yesterday. It's only now that we're able to rescue them because even the police search team, rescue and search team, has not been able to assist because of the bad weather conditions there overnight. But at least now we have now one aircraft that is uplifting learners. We're also expecting additional from the military services, which we have been advised left in Limpopo about 2 hours ago, so we're expecting them anytime from now.
The damage, as you said, is varied across one school, from one school to the next. Are there situations where entire buildings are damaged?
Well, we have not received such a report. There's basically no comprehensive assessment from our infrastructure unit team. The reports that we're getting are from principals who are not really experts in terms of infrastructure. So there may be, for example, buildings that are still standing now, only to find out that the engineers, qualified engineers, will advise that we must demolish the whole structure. But principals have been indicating that classes have been damaged by floods, including some of the school equipments that have been flooded away. So it's that kind of reports that we're still getting now. But once the situation is clear, then engineers will be taking over in terms of assessment.
I know the province has not yet had a declaration of a disaster. It's a possibility. It's not been taken off the table. But as the Education Department, having seen what's happened at these 97 schools and the fact that the number of schools affected by these floods could well rise as you gain access to some of the other parts of KwaZulu-Natal, would you as the Education Department be in favor of a disaster declaration?
Definitely, we will be calling for it. We are actually meeting as a Provincial Executive Council at 5 o'clock today. I'm sure the Premier will be receiving the comprehensive report from the Department of Culture, whereby we are hoping that the Executive Council will then be making a call for the province to be declared as disaster area so that we can get more relief because we are in dire needs, and we are just hoping that the weather will be clearing at least from tomorrow onwards so that we can be able to access some of the areas and assess more damages. More damage, but also have schooling returning to normality.
What happens, just on that point about schooling, what happens to pupils and staff at the schools where there has been damage found, whether light, moderate or extreme?
We should be deploying some kind of emergency intervention, such as mobile classrooms, where a number of classes are affected. But also we look into what other school equipment that were affected and see if we can be able to replace them as speedily as we can. But all those will also be dependent on the availability of funds, as we know that as Department of Education, one will be complaining about the shrinking budget, but also we don't budget for disasters. As we speak, we are still unable to repair over 400 schools that have been storm damaged in the past period. So this will be adding into that backlog, and it's going to put more strain on the finances of the department. But we equally have to save the time for teaching and learning and the future of these kids. That is why we have to find a way of reprioritizing, stopping other projects and other things that we will be doing as a department, so that we focus on providing emergency services to our schools.
And finally, over 500 schools, you said, in KZN did not hold lessons today as part of precautionary measures, shall we say, to make sure that everyone is safe, because routes are blocked by water, fallen trees and the rest of it. When do you expect that schooling in KwaZulu-Natal will resume?
Well, that will be dependent on how the weather behaves. We are just from another meeting now where the weather services experts were telling us that from tomorrow we'll see the weather clearing up. But the call that we're making to parents, the teachers as well as learners, is that as long as they can see that it's not safe to go to schools, they must not risk their lives, because lives are important. We must save life first, and then we can deal with other matters. So we will see how the weather clears up, and we're hoping that it will indeed soon clear up, so that we don't lose so much time of teaching and learning.
KwaZulu-Natal Education MEC Kwazi Mshengu, thank you for your time as always.
Siamo.